Stop staring at that poster on your wall with the sports car and the beach house. You think that by visualizing the finish line, you're actually running the race. Machiavelli would call that a death wish. A goal is a fixed point in a world that never stops moving. While you're daydreaming about your 5-year plan, the guy sitting in the cubicle next to you is figuring out how to take your chair today. If your eyes are always on the horizon, you're going to trip over the stone right in front of your feet. Imagine a guy who has a strict goal to save $50,000 to start a specific business. He spends 3 years obsessed with that number, ignoring everything else. Meanwhile, a massive opportunity to partner with a rising star passes him by because it didn't fit his plan. By the time he hits his $50,000, the market has changed, and his idea is worth zero. The escape from this dead end is to trash the long-term destination and start obsessing over positioning. Don't ask where you'll be in 5 years. Ask who has the power in the room right now and what you need to do to make them depend on you. Think about the hustler who is so focused on his goal of being a boss that he treats his current entry-level job like garbage. He shows up late, does the bare minimum, and acts like he's above the work. He thinks he's saving his energy for his future emperor, but because he's a ghost in his current spot, no one trusts him with real responsibility or inside information. The way to beat this stagnation is to realize that your current boring job is actually a scouting mission. Stop dreaming of the CEO office and start mastering the mechanics of how the current CEO keeps his job. Use the present as a training ground, not a waiting room. Forget about finding your passion or waiting for the perfect opportunity. Machiavelli didn't have time for dreamers. He had time for people who knew how to win. It isn't about being a nice guy or having a clean record. It's about having the raw ability, the muscle, and the brains to bend the world to your will. A vision is a fixed target that can be moved or destroyed by a change in the wind. Think about a guy who has a vision to be a top-tier real estate person. He studies one specific neighborhood and waits for the perfect house to go on sale. While he's waiting, the interest rates skyrocket and his vision becomes a nightmare. He's stuck because he only knew how to do one thing. The tactic to outrun this failure is to stop falling in love with the house and start falling in love with the hustle. Develop the skill of spotting undervalued assets, whether it's houses, stocks, or people. Look at the person who stays in a dead-end job because they are loyal to their vision of the company succeeding. They think their hard work will eventually be rewarded by the universe. Machiavelli would tell you the universe doesn't have a balance sheet. While you're being loyal, the owners are looking for ways to cut costs, starting with your salary. The method to avoid being a casualty is to turn yourself into a Swiss Army knife. Don't be the marketing guy. Be the person who understands the psychology of why people buy anything. When you focus on your internal power rather than an external goal, you become impossible to get rid of. You aren't tied to the ship. You're the captain who can sail any ship in the harbor. Virtù is about knowing when to be a beast and when to be a man. Sometimes you need to follow the rules to gain trust. Sometimes you need to break them to gain ground. If you have a goal to be ethical in a room full of sharks, you will be eaten. Machiavelli said that a man who wants to act virtuously in every way necessarily comes to grief among so many who are not virtuous. This doesn't mean you become a villain. It means you become a realist. Consider a small business owner who refuses to use a specific marketing tactic because it feels too aggressive for his brand vision. His competitor uses it and takes 40% of his customers in a month. The business folds. The strategy to dodge this bankruptcy is to realize that your brand vision doesn't pay the light bill. Effectiveness is the only metric that matters. If the aggressive tactic works and it's legal, you use it. You don't let your vision of who you are stop you from doing what needs to be done. A man with Virtù also knows how to manage his reputation. You don't need to be a genius at everything, but you need to appear to be the person who has the answer. If people believe you are the key to their success, they will protect you. If they think you are just another dreamer with a goal, they will step over you. The shift to make here is to stop talking about what you want to achieve and start demonstrating what you can do for others right now. Power isn't granted. It's gathered by those who show they can handle it. A map tells you where the road should be. The terrain tells you where the mud is. Most people are obsessed with the map, the career path, the industry standard, or the HR handbook. Machiavelli taught that a prince must always be hunting, not just for sport, but to learn the landscape. Every hill, every valley, every swamp. You need to know your environment so well that you can use it to hide or to strike. Imagine you're trying to move up in a company. The map says you need to hit your KPIs and wait for your annual review. But the terrain shows that the boss only promotes people who stay late to talk about football with him. If you follow the map, you'll work 80 hours a week on your desk and get passed over for the guy who knows the boss's favorite team. The way out of this trap is to stop working harder on your tasks and start working harder on your surroundings. Drop the goal of being the best worker and adopt the reality of being the most observant. Maps are static. They are yesterday's news. Terrain is alive. If a new manager comes in, the terrain has changed. If the company loses a big client, the terrain has changed. People with goals keep following the old map even when the bridge is washed out. They keep doing what worked before until they fall into the river. Think about the small business owner who follows the map of traditional advertising because that's what the textbooks say. He spends his life savings on billboards while his customers have all moved to a new social media app he refuses to learn. He's following a map of a city that doesn't exist anymore. The maneuver to save his business is to get out of the office and actually look at where the people are. Stop looking at the projected data and look at the hands of the people on the street. What are they holding? Where is their attention? Machiavelli lived in a time of constant war. He knew that if you didn't know the shortcut through the woods, you died. In the modern world, the woods are the hidden hierarchies in your office or your industry. There is the official chart, and then there is the power chart. The official chart shows who has the titles. The power chart shows who people actually listen to. The method to master your environment is to find the person on the power chart who isn't on the official chart. Maybe it's the executive assistant who sees every email or the veteran salesman who knows the secrets of every client. When you study the terrain, you stop being a victim of bad luck. You realize that what others call luck is actually just a shift in the landscape that they were too blind to see. A prince who knows the mountains can trap an army 10 times his size. A professional who knows the terrain of their office can defeat a rival with 10 times their experience. Don't be a tourist holding an old map. Be the scout who knows every inch of the dirt. Machiavelli said Fortuna is like a violent river. When she's angry, she floods the plains, tears down trees, and destroys buildings. Everyone runs away, and no one can stop her. But when the weather is calm, smart people don't just sit around tanning. They build dikes and dams. They prepare for the flood before it starts raining. A goal is a fair weather plan. It assumes the river will always stay in its banks. It won't. If your goal is to retire by 50 based on a steady market, and the market crashes when you're 49, you aren't a success. You're a victim. Look at the employee who has a goal to climb the ladder at one specific company. They put all their eggs in that one basket because it's safe. Then a new CEO comes in, or a global crisis hits, and the company folds. Suddenly, they are 45 years old with a specialized resume and 0 outside connections. The remedy for this ruin is to stop trusting the calm water. You need to ill-use fortune by being bold and keeping your options wide open. You don't hope for good luck. You build a fortress so that even when bad luck hits, you're the only one left standing. Think of a freelancer who has one big dream client. They focus all their energy there because it's their goal to work for that brand. When that client decides to go in a different direction or cuts their budget, the freelancer is destroyed. The strategic escape from this bankruptcy is to never let one person or one company hold the keys to your life. You keep 3 other clients on the hook, even if you're busy. You treat your dream like a temporary bonus, not a foundation. You stay armed with multiple streams of income so that if the river floods one path, you just walk down another. Fortune is fickle. She loves to flip the table just when you think you're winning. People with rigid goals get crushed because they can't adapt to the flip. They stand there crying about how it wasn't supposed to be like this. The tactic to stay ahead of the curve is to always have a plan B that is just as profitable as plan A. You don't get sentimental about your path. If the bridge washes out, you don't mourn the bridge. You use the wood to build a boat. You don't wait for fortune to screw you over. You stay so prepared that her bad luck becomes your new opportunity. Everyone tells you to be yourself. That is the worst advice you will ever receive. If yourself is a person with the specific, transparent goal, everyone knows your next move. You become predictable, and in the game of power, predictable people are easy to manipulate and even easier to stop. Machiavelli taught that a prince must be a great pretender and dissembler. You should appear to be all mercy, all faith, all honesty, and all religion. But be ready to flip the script the second the wind changes. Imagine you're in a high-stakes negotiation for a new contract. If everyone knows your goal is to close the deal today because you need the money, they will squeeze you for every penny. They know you're desperate for the win, so they'll offer you the bare minimum. To maneuver out of this squeeze, you must act like you couldn't care less. Talk about your other options. Mention a consulting gig that's taking up all your time. When you hide your true intent behind a mask of indifference, the power shifts. Suddenly, they are the ones chasing you. You don't reach for the fruit. You make the fruit fall into your lap because they're afraid of losing you. Being a dissembler doesn't mean you're a liar. It means you're a guardian of your own information. Information is the ultimate currency. If you tell everyone your goal, you've given them a map of your heart. They know exactly how to hurt you, how to tempt you, or how to block you. Machiavelli understood that the masses judge by the eye, not by the hand. Everyone sees what you appear to be, but almost no one feels what you actually are. Consider a person who is unhappy at work and tells everyone their goal is to find a new job. Their current boss hears the rumor and immediately stops giving them the high-profile assignments or the year-end bonus. They've lost their leverage before they've even secured a new spot. The way to handle this transition is to be the most enthusiastic, loyal employee right up until the hour you hand in your resignation. Wear the mask of the dedicated team player while you secretly build your exit in the dark. This isn't being fake. It's being a professional. It ensures that you leave on your own terms, with your reputation intact and your pockets full. Your mask should be whatever the current situation requires. If you need to appear humble to get a mentor to teach you their secrets, be the humblest student in the room. If you need to appear arrogant to scare off a bully who is testing your limits, be the most intimidating lion they've ever seen. A person with a goal of being authentic is a person who has chosen to walk through a battlefield without armor. Authenticity is a luxury for the resourced and the powerless. For those still in the fight, the mask is your greatest shield. So you've learned to pick a side, but now you need to know how to act once you're in the trenches. Having the right side doesn't matter if you get outplayed by a smarter opponent or crushed by a stronger one. This is where your goal of being a specialist or a hard worker fails you. You can't just be one thing. You have to be a shapeshifter. Be the lion and the fox. The lion is strong enough to scare off the wolves, but he's too thick-headed to see the traps set in the grass. The fox is smart enough to sniff out a snare from a mile away, but he's too small to defend himself when the wolves surround him. Most people pick one identity and stick to it because it's their goal to be authentic. They are either the tough boss who gets blindsided by a coup, or the clever strategist who gets bullied out of their own ideas. Machiavelli's blueprint says you must be both. You need to be a fox to recognize the traps and a lion to frighten the wolves. Imagine you're running a small team. If you're only a lion, you lead by force. You demand results and crack the whip. Your team might produce, but they'll secretly hate you and look for ways to sabotage your goal behind your back. You won't see the trap until you're falling into it. The fix for this blind spot is to let the fox take the lead. Spend time listening. Find out who is unhappy and why. Detect the snares in the office culture before they trip you up. By being a fox, you see the betrayal coming. By being a lion, you have the strength to crush it before it starts. Think of a salary negotiation. If you go in as just a lion, you demand a raise and threaten to quit. If the company can't afford it or doesn't like your tone, you're out of a job. If you go in as just a fox, you try to trick them or drop subtle hints, but they might just ignore you because you don't seem like a threat. The way to win this standoff is to combine them. Use the fox to gather intel. Find out exactly what the budget is and what your boss is afraid of. Then use the lion to present your value with such force and confidence that they realize losing you would be a massive blow to their own security. Most people with big goals are usually lions. They just want to charge straight ahead and break through the wall. They think effort is everything, but the world is full of walls that won't break. The fox knows that sometimes you don't need to break the wall. You just need to find the key or wait for the door to open. Take a person trying to disrupt an industry with a new app. The lion move is to spend millions on ads and try to bully the big players. They usually go broke. The fox-like bypass for this disaster is to find a tiny niche the big players ignored, build a loyal base there, and grow quietly. Only when you are big enough to defend yourself do you let the lion out to take the rest of the market. You don't announce your arrival with a roar. You arrive like a shadow and only roar when the win is already guaranteed. So you've mastered the art of being the lion and the fox, but there is one chain holding you back, your conscience. You've been told since you were a kid that if you are a good person, the world will reward you. You think your goal should be to leave a clean trail and make everyone happy. But in the real world, that kind of goodness is often just a fancy word for being a target. The world is full of people who think being nice is a strategy. They have a goal to be the most liked person in the building, thinking that popularity equals security. Machiavelli would laugh at that. He said it is much safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Love is a fickle bond that people break the second it's in their interest to do so. Fear, however, is held by a dread of punishment that never leaves them. If you are good to everyone, you are essentially telling the sharks that you don't have teeth. Look at the co-worker who does everyone's favors, stays late to help others, and never says no because he wants to be a good man. When the layoffs come, he's the first one out. Why? Because the bosses know he's too nice to put up a fight, and they don't fear any retaliation from him. He has no leverage because he's spent all his time being a carpet. The way to dodge this downfall is to stop trying to be the favorite and start trying to be the most respected. You don't need them to like you. You need them to realize that crossing you would be a massive, painful mistake. Being good often means you are predictable and easy to manage. If a manager knows you will always do the right thing and take one for the team, guess who gets the worst shifts and the hardest work? You do. The maneuver to break this cycle is to develop a sharp edge. You don't have to be a jerk, but you have to be capable of being one. When people know you have a limit and that you will strike back if pushed, they treat you with a level of care they never show to the nice guy. Machiavelli taught that a man who tries to act virtuously in every way necessarily comes to grief among so many who are not virtuous. If you are playing a game of chess, but your opponent is playing a game of war, your goodness is just a handicap. Think of a business owner who refuses to fire a lazy employee because he wants to be a good boss. That one lazy person poisons the whole team, productivity drops, and eventually the business fails and everyone loses their job. His goodness actually caused more harm than a cruel firing would have. The biggest problem with goals is that they make you a servant to a version of yourself that doesn't even exist yet. You spend all your time working for future you, while present you is getting robbed blind by people who understand how power works today. You think that once you hit that big milestone, you'll finally be safe. But in the world of power, there is no finish line. There is only the next move. You don't need a plan for 2030. You need a set of eyes that can see the terrain for what it is in this year. You need the mask to keep your enemies guessing, and the lion's heart to strike when the moment is right. When you delete your goals and replace them with these principles, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You stop hoping for a good outcome and start commanding one. If you found value in this blueprint, do the smart thing. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell. In a world of noise, you need a source that tells you the truth about how the world actually turns. Drop a comment below. Tell me, which part of your vision board are you deleting today? Don't just watch. Execute. The world is moving. Make sure you're the one doing the moving. See you in the next one.